I'm Tony Gittins, director of the Washington, DC International Film Festival. Thank you for joining us. We have a delightful comedy in the festival this year. It's from Spain, and it's called ROSA'S Wedding. We have with us today the director of the film, Icíar Bollaín. Icíar will be in conversation with the cultural director at the Embassy of Spain, and his name is Miguel Albero. I'm sure you'll enjoy their conversation. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Miguel Albero, the head of the Cultural Office of Spain here in Washington. I'm very pleased to be here today with you and with Icíar Bollaín, one of our best filmmakers, and we're very happy that her film has been chosen for the festival. And it's going to be weird because we're both from Madrid, both Spanish, and we're going to speak in English, but I was mentioning before that we'll have a link, already a language link, because my mother was a Latin professor at high school. So as I said, we're very happy to be here with you. For you that you don't know Icíar is, as I said, one of our best filmmakers. She started as an actress in films like El Sur and Malaventura, and then she's become a writer and a director, awarded writer and director. I would mention just 3 films of her. Flowers from Another World, that was awarded at Cannes. Take My Eyes, her following film, was won 7 Goyas, which is the Spanish Academy Awards. And my favorite one, which is Even the Rain, which is a film that is both political and then also a wonderful film about cinema, in a movie inside the movie, which is what it is also. And she's here today with in the festival with another wonderful movie, ROSA'S Wedding, that I recommend you to watch. I want to start, Icíar, by asking you about the script. This is you wrote this script with Alicia Luna, and I heard that the idea started in an article in The Guardian where you saw this, it was talking about these solo weddings in Kyoto, and you actually went to Kyoto to see these solo weddings. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, there was this article. Well, hello everybody, and thanks very much to the festival to invite our film there. The idea started long ago, like in 2016. I saw this article in The Guardian titled "Everything by the Groom." I just find it very funny, I have to say. And then it was this journalist who had traveled to Kyoto, where there was this kind of agency in which you can marry yourself, or in any case, dressed up and do your photo album by yourself with all the gear except the groom. Not that the groom is a gear, but you had everything except the groom. And then I had to open one of my films in Japan. It was The Olive Tree. So I took the chance to also go and visit this agency. But the thing about the agency, it wasn't really about self-marrying. It was more about the actual photographs. And it was aimed to women who, for whatever reason, didn't have those photos, even being married, or because they weren't married. And they give so much importance to these photographs because it's a moment of beauty, it's a moment of very important for a woman to have in her life. So it was like a possibility of having it without needing to be married or needing marrying. But then the thing is, it opened up a subject, which is these solo weddings, and I discovered that they was done all over the world. So I wouldn't say it's a trend, but I would say is many people actually feel compelled to do a kind of a commitment to take care of themselves, and not only women, also men. So we investigated in Spain what was the case, and we saw that there was this wonderful woman in the north of Spain, in Bilbao, which she actually organized these solo weddings in groups. They married themselves, but in a group. And she also did a premarital workshop to prepare yourself to get into the marriage in good conditions, to love yourself. So anyway, I saw that there was a very mad idea, which was very funny, that could bring in a comedy tone to it, but it was talking about serious things, which is the self-esteem and the self-respect, to listen to yourself and to set up boundaries, to stop people whenever you want them to stop, which is some of the problems poor Rosa has with her family. So we just went ahead in trying to tell a story about a woman. It could be a man, but usually it's more women who have more difficulty to stop people and to say no. And also it's more women who have this role of the carers and thinking on top of themselves everybody's needs. So, and we wanted to tell it in this lighter tone, in this cheery tone, because it's a serious matter, but I think it was going to go further down the line if we did it in this kind of dramedy tone.
Thank you. And well, to tell you that for those who are watching, the main character is a woman who's becoming 45, and she's always taking care of other people, but never about herself. She's always helping other people, but never helping herself. No, and she decides to quit this, and that's the idea of the wedding. How about the place where the film is shot in Valencia, and it's a family, classical Mediterranean family? Why did you choose that specific region and place to do the movie?
Well, as you say, there is something very Mediterranean about the film, and I mean, the story can be told anywhere, but you always try to find a place that tells better what you want to tell, that the landscape helps you telling the story or helps you with the tone of the story. And we were very conscious of this lighter tone, this vital tone. And then you have the light in the Mediterranean, which is gorgeous. You have the city of Valencia, which is a very dynamic place, and also it's a big capital, so you have everything. You could have someone like the sister that works in being a translator because there is big conference going on there. You can have a studio set where Rosa works as a seamstress. So it's cosmopolitan and big enough to have all these jobs, but also it's by the sea, and also it has this Mediterranean, and also it's a kind of a Mediterranean, I don't know how to say, joy de vivre. You know, there is even in the music, we try to bring in a kind of an echo of the Italian neorealism, the Tony Rota, the musician, Nino Rota. This kind of noisy family kind of Mediterranean thing. And because the film talks about this woman who wants to break with the family and all that, because there is a very strong theme too, which is the family mechanics, which I think is a very Latino thing. It's also Mediterranean, but it's also probably Muslim, and it's probably, I mean, it's universal, but it can be also very local to Spain, which is this kind of intrusive family, which doesn't stop in just 2 meters. They just get over it and get inside your life without any problem. No, like the father, he just decides he's going to live with her daughter without asking her daughter. So I think all that is very Spanish, and again, there is a kind of a mental madness in the Mediterranean area, which is but it's rich and it's lively, and we wanted to use that and to steal that from our story. No? It was going to help us tell the story in this tone, not like a tragedy, but more like a farce sometimes. Or there is also, we have this fantastic director in Spain, which is called Berlanga. We are celebrating his centenary I think this year. And there is, sometimes journalists have told me that it has an echo of this Berlanga, which to me is the biggest award I can receive, because I find him a master. And he was a master of this kind of noisy groups of people talking, everybody on top of each other and being very intrusive.
There was, in Catalonia exists this institution called La Tieta, which is the daughter that never marries, and she's always available for everyone, but for herself, no? How was the process of working with Alicia Lunagen, who wrote the script with you? How is that? Because as a writer, I'm always curious about this idea of writing forehand writing, which is complex and has to be exciting at the same time.
Well, the thing is, with Alicia, I used to carry the weight of the writing. I do the writing myself. But it's a kind of a very lonely process writing. I'm more a team person, and I enjoy much more the teamwork, which comes later, directing. But so doing the writing, I try not to be all alone. And then Alicia is a great dance partner. She's a great board to throw the ideas, to discuss them, though as I say, I carry the writing, but it's always shared. It's always. So she even came with me to Japan, the first trip. She did the research with me. When we did interviews with other women who had married themselves in Spain, we do the interviews together. So it's a process in which we both work very well together. And then when it comes to bringing into the page, I kind of lead it, and then she's all the time a second pair of ears and another brain to bounce the ideas to, which is very good, because it can be very lonely writing. And sometimes you find yourself thinking, is this funny at all? Is this interesting?
Tell us about the cast, because I think it plays a major role in the movie. And it's true that you have a main character, and Candela is great, but the rest of the family, as you said, this idea of a very Mediterranean family, that they're all always around, and the actors are both of the brothers are great. So how was the idea of choosing them? Tell us about it.
To me, casting is one of the most important process, because that's half of the job of the director later on. I mean, if you made a mistake during the casting, there's very little you can do during the shoot. So to me, it's very important. In this case, we needed to find the lead, but we also have to make a human group, which is the family. So they have all to work together. So I always do auditions, even though I know the actors, because some of them, like Candela, have worked with me before, and I admire her enormously. But I always need to see how are the dynamics between them. And they are all very well-known actors, all of them, except the young girl, which is not that well known. She's on television, but I just asked them to come along. I mean, I always tell the actors, look, I'm not testing you. I mean, you could even be testing me. So it's not a matter of a test here. It's a matter of seeing how you interact and how it looks as a family and how the mechanics work. And they were very generous, and they all came along happily, and they did their auditions just mixing among themselves. And I saw they were fantastic when they were together. I mean, the whole thing just they kind of step on top of each other's feet and boom, 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 and they just bring the thing to life fantastically. So it was, well, it's always a long process, because I see people and I see, but to me it's super important. Very, very important.
Tell us about your new project. You're working on a new project. How has been this horrible year for everyone? You've been working all year. You've been. It has already started. I read that you are already doing this movie, no? Or you finished it?
Probably, fingers crossed, I'm finishing the editing this Friday. It's funny, because it's a year I have worked more than ever. A lot of the work has been by Zoom. I mean, I casted by Zoom. The film I'm finishing now, the editing. I did a lot of the work preparation by Zoom, but then we did shoot it as usual, and I'm very happy. It's a complete different change of tone. It's something which is about our recent history. It's inspired by the meetings that happened in 2011, just before the ETA, the terrorist group in Spain, just stopped the violence. Just before that, there were some meetings done between victims of the band, victims of killings of the band, and the actual perpetrators, the prisoners who were in jail, that they had repent, that they have leave the band, and they have asked for forgiveness, and they wanted to meet them face to face with some of the victims as a process in their personal trip to acknowledging the pain they have caused. So there was this woman, Isabel Lassa, who's a real character, who actually met two of the people who killed her husband. So this is a story around that, and I think it's going to create a lot of debate, because it's something very, very painful about our recent history, and it's talking about the consequences of violence and the pain it causes, and also what can we do about it, and hopefully not repeat it ever again. So it's a weighted film. It's not obviously in this cheery tone of Rosa's Wedding, but I think it's important, and I think it's important to go back and because there is now a difficult path ahead for the Basque Country mainly to live together, because these people are going to leave jail and are going to be back in their villages and their cities, and now they have the task to live all together after 50 years of violence. So I think it's important to reflect on what has happened. So that's what's about the next film.
Interesting. For the American audience, this problem of ETA in the Basque Country, it's interesting, because there's been a lot of fiction lately about it. No, the most famous Patria,
Yeah.
novel by Fernando Aramburu, it's interesting because with things that couldn't be said or before are now speaking about our past, our recent past, which is always hard to speak about and to deal with your recent past. But I think it's, as you said, it's we have to, and it's something that we have to do.
We have to do, but there is something very universal about it, because it's talking about the human cost of violence, and these men who have killed. I mean, we have right now violence all over the world. In Colombia, they are killing each other. In many places in Africa, in Syria. So there are many places where they are living under, in different circumstances, but under very heavy violence. And there are people there who are living the violence and suffering the violence, and people who are inflicting the violence. So, and there is a moment in which those people will wonder what they've done, I'm sure, sooner or later. So I think it's a very universal thing. It's actually, these meetings were done under the umbrella of something which is called restorative justice, which is aimed to help healing in a way these consequences of violence. So it's something that they did in South Africa, for example, after the apartheid and after all the violence there, and it can be done it's done also in jail for just ordinary offenders, you know, for people who have killed other on drugs or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of situations, but it deals with the consequences of violence in the victim and also in the person who actually perpetrates the violence. So I think it has also this universal read, the story. It's about forgiveness, it's about repentance, it's big things.
And one last question, because I think we're running out of time, is a general one about this year of pandemic. We've all wanted to go back to the cinema. I went to here in Washington, I went to the cinema for the first time last week. What do you think about the future of cinemas and this idea of the platforms that are changing our way to see cinema? No? Because I heard an interview with Norman Foster the other day, and they asked him if it was in the middle of the pandemic, if the pandemic, this was going to change the way we lived and the buildings had to be different. And he mentioned that in the 1920s, which is when the so-called Spanish flu happened, after that is when the cinemas were built, the big cinemas where people were together inside a place. But it's obviously that there was a trend now of people just watching fiction in their screens and not in the cinema. What do you think about it?
Well, you can see there was a trend already in seeing films at home, because we already have it, and the pandemic have just strengthened that trend. I mean, I really hope the cinemas keep going, even if it's just for occasions or for events, or I mean that way of watching films doesn't die, because it's very different. Actually, it's very, very different. The experience of being with other people in an enclosed place. But to me, there's something even more worrying, which is the younger generations. I mean, film goers were already aging somehow. I mean, I used to go around Europe with my films, and because they open the films in our houses, and so I go there and I have Q&As, and I can see that the audience is aging, and there is no a very big renovation in the younger audiences. But now I think it's even, the jump is going to be even bigger, because the younger audiences like have 2 kids, 3 kids, but they are teenagers. I mean, they are growing up with series, which is a different storytelling altogether. It's a different thing. And a film is a kind of a curiosity for them. I mean, at 20, I was in the cinema every weekend watching film after film, and they hardly see films. They see much more series, which is a different rhythm and storytelling. So I do wonder what's going to happen with the hour-and-a-half, 2-hour format. Never mind where are you going to see it. So that's the other day, my 20-year-old said something which broke my heart. It says, yes, I do like going to the cinema. It's like what you would do once a year, no? Like going to the zoo. And I felt like, because we are in extinction of I mean, I was just heartbroken. But I do think language is changing, and they are understanding I was asking to, when in this film I was doing, it's called My Saddle, in the Basque Country, I asked the driver who drove me up and down to the places, which was a young lad of 22, says, do you see films? And he goes, feel lazy, I prefer a series. So he felt lazy to see 2 hours and prefer a series of 16. So what's going to happen with the format? That's my wonder.
Yeah, it's like it requires an effort, like if it was like a 19th century novel, no, of 300 pages.
I think that it's also a very satisfying shape. That's the truth. I mean, and I am watching series too, and I'm fascinated by some series, but I think there is something very satisfying and short about a film, which I hope it doesn't die. But even the editing, the way to tell a story in 2 hours is very different. There is no these turning points, there is no surprises, there is no mega plots around. It's just something much more self-contained. And I don't know if there'll come a point. The same thing, they don't watch tele now. Tele for them is alien. They don't watch tele, and we grow up watching tele. So they are really growing with a different culture altogether. So let's see what they come with.
Well, thank you, Icíar. They told us that we reached our 20 minutes. So we invite people to watch this Rosa's Wedding, which is a wonderful movie. And we hope that Icíar will come for this next movie here to Washington in person this time to promote the film in the States. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye.